BC 18. That is also the time at which Aleppo was first mentioned in cuneiform tablets unearthed in Ebla and Mesopotamia, which speak of it as part of the Amorite state of Yamhad, and note its commercial and military importance. 19. Such a long history is attributed to its strategic location as a trading center between the Mediterranean Sea and Mesopotamia. For centuries, Aleppo was the largest city in the Syrian region, and the Ottoman Empire's third largest after Constantinople, now Istanbul, and Cairo. 20, 21, 22. The city's significance in history has been its location at one end of the Silk Road, which passed through Central Asia and Mesopotamia. When the Suez Canal was inaugurated in 1869, much trade was diverted to sea and Aleppo began its slow decline. At the fall of the Ottoman Empire after World War I, Aleppo lost its northern hinterland to modern Turkey, as well as the important Baghdad railway connecting it to Mosul. In 1939, it lost its main access to the sea, by Antakya and Iskenderun, also to Turkey. The growth and importance of Damascus in the past few decades further exacerbated the situation. This decline may have helped to preserve the old city of Aleppo, its medieval architecture and traditional heritage. It won the title of the Islamic Capital of Culture 2006 and has had a wave of successful restorations of its historic landmarks. The Battle of Aleppo occurred in the city during the Syrian Civil War, and many parts of the city suffered massive destruction. 23, 24. Affected parts of the city are currently undergoing reconstruction. 25, 26. An estimated 31,000 people were killed in Aleppo during the conflict. 27. Had and Yamhad dynasty. The Old Town of Aleppo. Aleppo has scarcely been touched by archaeologists, since the modern city occupies its ancient site. The earliest occupation of the site was around 8000 BC, as shown by excavations in Tallet Alsauda, 37. Aleppo appears in historical records as an important city much earlier than Damascus. The first record of Aleppo comes from the 3rd millennium BC, in the Ebla tablets when Aleppo was referred to as Ha-lam. 38. Some historians, such as Wayne Horowitz, identify Aleppo with the capital of an independent kingdom closely related to Ebla, known as Armi. 39. Although this identification is contested. The main temple of the storm god Hadad was located on the Citadel hill in the center of the city. 40. When the city was known as the city of Hadad. 41. Hadad temple inside Aleppo citadel. Naram-Sin of Akkad mentioned his destruction of Ebla and Armanum. 42. In the 23rd century BC, 43, 44, however, the identification of Armani and the inscription of Naram-Sin as Armi in the Eblite tablets is heavily debated. 45, as there was no Akkadian annexation of Ebla or northern Syria. 45. In the Old Babylonian and Old Assyrian Empire period, Aleppo's name appears in its original form as Alba for the first time. 44, Aleppo was the capital of the important Amorite dynasty of Yamhad. The Kingdom of Yamhad, circa 1800 to 1525 BC, alternatively known as the Land of Alep, was one of the most powerful in the Near East during the reign of Yerim-Lim I, who formed an alliance with Hammurabi of Babylonia against Shamshi-Adad I of Yamhad was devastated by the Hittites under Mursalai I in the 16th century BC. However, it soon resumed its leading role in the Levant when the Hittite power in the region waned due to internal strife. 44. Taking advantage of the power vacuum in the region, Baratarna, king of the Hurrian kingdom of Mitanni, instigated a rebellion that ended the life of Yamhad's last king Ilama-Lima I in c. 1525 BC. 47. Subsequently, Parshadadar conquered Aleppo and the city found itself on the front line in the struggle between the Mitanni, the Hittites, and Egypt. 44. Nikmipa of Alalak, who descends from the old Yamhadite kings, controlled the city as a vassal to Mitanni and was attacked by Dadhalia I of the Hittites as a retaliation for his alliance to Mitanni. 48. Later the Hittite king Suppilulius I permanently defeated Mitanni, and conquered Aleppo in the 14th century BC. Suppilulius installed his son Telepinas as king, and a dynasty of Suppilulius descendants ruled Aleppo until the late Bronze Age collapse. 49. However, Talmisaruma, grandson of Suppilulius I, who was the king of Aleppo, had fought on the Hittite side, along with King Muwatalli II during the Battle of Kadesh against the Egyptian army led by Ramesses II. Note 2. Al-Kaikan Mosque was originally a Hittite pagan temple during ancient times. In addition, a stone block with Anatolian hieroglyphs can be found on the southern wall. Aleppo had cultic importance to the Hittites as the center of worship of the storm god. 44. This religious importance continued after the collapse of the Hittite Empire at the hands of the Assyrians and Phrygians in the 12th century BC, when Aleppo became part of the Middle Assyrian Empire. 51, whose king renovated the temple of Hadad, which was discovered in 2003, 52. In 2003, a statue of a king named Tata bearing inscriptions in Luwian was discovered during excavations conducted by German archaeologist K. Kohlmeier in the citadel of Aleppo. 53. The new readings of Anatolian hieroglyphic signs proposed by the Hittitologists Elizabeth Rekin and Ilya Yakubovich were conducive to the conclusion that the country ruled by Tata was called Palestine. 54. This country extended in the 11th to 10th centuries BC from the Amuk Valley in the west to Aleppo in the east, down to Maharta and Shazer in the south. 55. Due to the similarity between Palestine and Philistines, Hittitologist John David Hawkins, who translated the Aleppo inscriptions, hypothesizes a connection between the Syro-Hittite states Palestine and the Philistines, as do archaeologists Benjamin Sass and K. Kohlmeier. 56. Gershon Galil suggests that King David halted the Arameans' expansion into the land of Israel on account of his alliance with the southern Philistine kings, as well as with Toi, king of Amath, who was identified with Tai, Ta, Tu, king of Palestine, the northern sea peoples. 57. State of Bidigusi. During the early years of the first millennium BC, Aleppo was incorporated into the Aramean realm of Bidigusi, which held its capital at Arpad. 58. Bidigusi along with Aleppo and the entirety of the Levant was conquered by the Assyrians in the 8th century BC and became part of the Neo-Assyrian Empire during the reign of Tiglath-Pileser III until the late 7th century BC. 59. Before passing through the hands of the Neo-Babylonians and the Achaemenid Persians. 60. The region remained known as Aramea and Eber Nari throughout these periods. Classical Antiquity, Beroia. Beroia as it is shown in Tabula Peutingeriana. The ruins of the Maronite Basilica in Berid. Alexander the Great took over the city in 333 BC. Seleucus Nicator established a Hellenic settlement in the site between 301 and 286 BC. He called it Beroia, Beta Omicron Iota Alpha, after Beroia in Macedon. It is sometimes spelled as Beroia. Beroia is mentioned in 1 Mac 9:4. Northern Syria was the center of gravity of the Hellenistic world and Greek culture in the Seleucid Empire. As did other Greek cities of the Seleucid kingdom, Beroia probably enjoyed a measure of local autonomy, with a local civic assembly or bull composed of free Hellenes. 61. Beroia remained under Seleucid rule until 88 BC when Syria was conquered by the Armenian king Tigranes the Great and Beroia became part of the Kingdom of Armenia. 62. After the Roman victory over Tigranes, Syria was handed over to Pompey in 64 BC, at which time they became a Roman province. Rome's presence afforded relative stability in northern Syria for over 3 centuries. Although the province was administered by a legate from Rome, Rome did not impose its administrative organization on the Greek-speaking ruling class or Aramaic-speaking populace. 61. The Roman era saw an increase in the population of northern Syria that accelerated under the Byzantines well into the 5th century. In late antiquity, Beroia was the second largest Syrian city after Antioch, the capital of Roman Syria and the third largest city in the Roman world. Archaeological evidence indicates a high population density for settlements between Antioch and Beroia right up to the 6th century. This agrarian landscape still holds the remains of large estate houses and churches such as the Church of St. Simeon Stylites. 61. Ecclesiastical history. The Mosque of Abraham and the citadel of Aleppo, originally built by the Byzantines as a church. The names of several bishops of the Episcopal See of Beroia, which was in the Roman province of Syria Prima, are recorded in extant documents. The first whose name survives is that of Saint Eustathius of Antioch, who, after being Bishop of Beroia, was transferred to the important Metropolitan See of Antioch shortly before the 325 First Council of Nicaea. His successor in Beroia, Cyrus, was for his fidelity to the Nicene faith sent into exile by the Roman Emperor Constantius II. After the Council of Seleucia of 359, called by Constantius, Meletius of Antioch was transferred from Sebastia to Beroia but in the following year was promoted to Antioch. His successor in Beroia, Anatolius, was at a council in Antioch in 363. Under the persecuting Emperor Valens, the bishop of Beroia was Theodotus, a friend of Basil the Great. He was succeeded by Acacius of Beroia, who governed the see for over 50 years and was at the First Council of Constantinople in 381 and the Council of Ephesus in 431. In 438, He was succeeded by Theoctistus, who participated in the Council of Chalcedon in 451 and was a signatory of the joint letter that the bishops of the province of Syria Prima sent in 458 to Emperor Leo I the Thracian about the murder of Praetorius of Alexandria. In 518, Emperor Justin I exiled the bishop of Beroia Antoninus for rejecting the Council of Chalcedon. The last known bishop of the see is Megas, who was at a synod called by Patriarch Minas of Constantinople in 536, 63, 64. After the Arab conquest, Beroia ceased to be a residential bishopric, and is today listed by the Roman Catholic Church as a titular see, 65. Very few physical remains have been found from the Roman and Byzantine periods in the citadel of Aleppo. The two mosques inside the citadel are known to have been converted by the Murtasids during the 11th century from churches originally built by the Byzantines, 66. Medieval period. The old walls of Aleppo and the gate of Kinisrin restored in 1256 by Nasir Yusuf. Early Islamic period. The Sasanian Persians led by King Khosrow I pillaged and burned Aleppo in 540, 67, 68, then they invaded and controlled Syria briefly in the early 7th century. Soon after Aleppo was taken by the Rashidun Muslims under Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah in 637. It later became part of Jund Kinisrin under the Umayyad Caliphate. In 944, it became the seat of an independent emirate under the Hamdanid prince Seth al-Dawla, and enjoyed a period of great prosperity, being home to the great poet Al-Mut Nabi and the philosopher and polymath al-Farabi, 69. In 962, the city was sacked by the Byzantine general Nikephoros Phocas, 70. Subsequently, the city and its emirate became a temporary vassal of the Byzantine Empire. For the next few decades, the city was disputed by the Fatimid Caliphate and Byzantine Empire, with the nominally independent Hamdanids in between, eventually falling to the Fatimids in 1017, 71. In 1024, Salih ibn Mirdas launched an attack on Fatimid Aleppo, and after a few months was invited into the city by its population, 72. The Murtasid dynasty then ruled the city until 1080, interrupted only in 1038 to 1042, when it was in the hands of the Fatimid commander-in-chief in Syria, Anashtakan al-Disbari, and in 1057 to 1060, when it was ruled by a Fatimid governor, Ibn Mulim. Murtasid rule was marked by internal squabbles between different Murtasid chieftains that sapped the emirate's power and made it susceptible to external intervention by the Byzantines, Fatimids, Uqaylids, and Turkoman warrior bands, 73. Seljuk and Ayyubid periods. In late 1077, Seljuk Emir Tutush launched a campaign to capture Aleppo during the reign of Sabiq ibn Mahmud of the Murtasid dynasty, which lasted until 1080, when his reinforcements were ambushed and routed by a coalition of Arab tribesmen led by Kalabi chief Abu Zaida at Wadi Butnan, 74. After the death of Sharaf al-Dawla of the Uqaylid dynasty in June 1085, the headman in Aleppo Sharif Hassan ibn Hibad-Allah al-Hutaydi promised to surrender the city to Sultan Malik Shah I. When the latter delayed his arrival, Hassan contacted the Sultan's brother Tutush. However, after Tutush defeated Sulayman ibn Qutulmish, who had intended to take Aleppo for himself, in the Battle of Ain Sam, Hassan went back on his commitment. In response, Tutush attacked the city and managed to get hold of parts of the walls and towers in July 1086, but he left in September, either due to the advance of Malik Shah or because the Fatimids were besieging Damascus, 75, 76. In 1087, Aq Sunkar al-Hajjab became the Seljuk governor of Aleppo under Sultan Malik Shah I, 77. During his bid for the Seljuk throne, Tutush had Aq Sunkar executed, and after Tutush died in battle, the town was ruled by his son Ridwan, 78, 79. The city was besieged by crusaders led by the king of Jerusalem Baldwin II in 1124 to 1125, but was not conquered after receiving protection by forces of Aq-Sunkar al-Bursuki arriving from Mosul in January 1125, 80. In 1128, Aleppo became capital of the expanding Zengid dynasty, which ultimately conquered Damascus in 1154. In 1138, Byzantine Emperor John II Komnenos led a campaign, which main objective was to capture the city of Aleppo. On April 20, 1138, the Christian army including crusaders from Antioch and Edessa launched an attack on the city but found it too strongly defended. Hence John II moved the army southward to take nearby fortresses. 81. On October 11, 1138, a deadly earthquake ravaged the city and the surrounding area. Although estimates from this time are very unreliable, it is believed that 230,000 people died, making it the seventh deadliest earthquake in recorded history. In In September 1260, the Egyptian Mamluks negotiated for a treaty with the Franks of Acre, which allowed them to pass through Crusader territory unmolested, and engaged the Mongols at the Battle of Ain Jalut on September 3, 1260. The Mamluks won a decisive victory, killing the Mongols' Nestorian Christian general Kitbuka, and 5 days later they had retaken Damascus. Aleppo was recovered by the Muslims within a month, and a Mamluk governor placed to govern the city. Hulagu sent troops to try to recover Aleppo in December. They were able to massacre a large number of Muslims in retaliation for the death of Kitbuka, but after a fortnight could make no other progress and had to retreat. 86. Al-Otrosh Mosque of the Mamluk period. The Mamluk governor of the city became insubordinate to the central Mamluk authority in Cairo, and in autumn 1261 the Mamluk leader Baybars sent an army to reclaim the city. In October 1271, the Mongols led by General Samagar took the city again, attacking with 10,000 horsemen from Anatolia, and defeating the Turkoman troops who were defending Aleppo. The Mamluk garrisons fled to Hama, until Baybars came north again with his main army, and the Mongols retreated. 87. On October 20, 1280, the Mongols took the city again, pillaging the markets and burning the mosques. 88. The Muslim inhabitants fled for Damascus, where the Mamluk leader Kalawan assembled his forces. When his army advanced following the Second Battle of Homs in October 1281, the Mongols again retreated, back across the Euphrates. In October 1299, Ghazan captured the city, joined by his vassal Armenian king Hethum II, whose forces included some Templars and Hospitallers. 89. In 1400, the Mongol Turkic leader Tamerlane captured the city again from the Mamluks. 90. He massacred many of the inhabitants, ordering the building of a tower of 20,000 skulls outside the city. 91. After the withdrawal of the Mongols, all the Muslim population returned to Aleppo. On the other hand, Christians who left the city during the Mongol invasion were unable to resettle back in their own quarter in the old town, a fact that led them to establish a new neighborhood in 1420, built at the northern suburbs of Aleppo outside the city walls, to become known as Al-Dadi Quarter, New District Arabic. Ottoman era. See also, Aleppo Eyalet. Khosrowiya Mosque of the early Ottoman period. 1842 daguerreotype by Joseph Philibert Geralt de Pragny, the earliest photograph of the city. Aleppo became part of the Ottoman Empire in 1516 as part of the vast expansion of the Ottoman borders during the reign of Selim I. The city then had around 50,000 inhabitants, or 11,224 households according to an Ottoman census. 92. In 1517, Selim I obtained a fatwa from Sunnite religious leaders and unleashed violence on the Alawites, killing 9,400 men, which is known as the Massacre of the Tilal. 93. It was the center of the Aleppo Eyalet. The rest of what later became Syria was part of either the Eyalets of Damascus, Tripoli, Sidon, or Raqqa. Following the Ottoman provincial reform of 1864, Aleppo became the center of the newly constituted Vilayet of Aleppo in 1866. Aleppo's agriculture was well developed in the Ottoman period. Archaeological excavations revealed watermills in its river basin. 94, 95. Contemporary Chinese source also suggests Aleppo in the Ottoman period had well-developed animal husbandry. 95. During his travels to the Levant in the 17th century, French traveler Jacques Goujon recounted how the Maronite community in Aleppo, facing financial difficulties and considering conversion to Islam due to their inability to pay the jizya tax, was aided by the Franciscans who bought their church, enabling them to meet their tax obligations. 96.